Welcome to the lovely riverwalk here today at San Antonio. I shall be your boat captain here today. My name is Jeremy, and as we settle along through here, I do have some very important safety rules that I do need everyone on board to follow. There's no smoking, no standing unless to take a quick picture. Please set all cell phones and iPhones to vibrate. Keep an eye on your arms, elbows, and cells on the outside rail there, just in case we do come up against a wall, the sidewalk, or another boat on this tour. And also, because it is an air-rated tour, do need everyone on board to remember do need to keep the voices down a little bit out of both common courtesy for the other paying guests on board, and also very important so that I myself may hear the radio calls as we settle along through here as well, which are very important for me to be able to hear, so as to make sure that we don't have any ugly accidents along the river. But other than that, first stop for a tour is right where we took off from here at the Aztec Theater itself, the last Aztec-themed theater in the entire state of Texas. Founded here in 1926 as a silent movie theater, changed its format over the years, however, fell under hard times, eventually closed down in the 80s. The city almost tore this building down then, until the San Antonio Conservation Society were able to purchase the property, restore and reopen it a few years back, right next door to the Mokkado Hotel, just past it, which used to be home to the L. Frank Saddlery in the early 20th century, which used to provide saddles and harnesses. The Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, famous Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa, Allied forces during World War I. And with that mark, we'll sail underneath Selena's bridge here in front of us, named in honor of the famous Tejano singer, Selena Quintanilla Perez, after Jennifer Lopez sat right here on this footbridge for a scene during the movie Selena, 1997, which if you all recall was her mainstream breakthrough role. They filmed right here on this footbridge for a scene during the evening, and afterwards Jennifer Lopez spent the night in La Manciondorio Hotel to the left of our boat. Spanish for the mansion on the river, it was founded over a century ago in 1853 as the St. Mary's School for Boys. It later became home to St. Mary's Law School in 1934, and then was purchased by two former students of St. Mary's in 1966. Who then reopened it 2 years later, 1968, La Manciondorio Hotel. So, that's three buildings so far: Aztec Theater, Mokkado Hotel, and La Manciondorio, all three of which are excellent examples of conservation, which is a bit of a major thing here in San Antonio, as many of the older, more historic buildings down here aren't always torn down. Many are actually reserved and restored thanks to the ever so many local conservation activists down here, including the San Antonio Conservation Society. Let me show you some other great examples of conservation later in our tour, but first, you look at La Manciondorio Hotel to the left of our boat, just past it, you'll see this very tall building right here, whose walls form a very sharp corner, less than 90 degrees. As a result, this tall building up here creates a really awesome little optical illusion along the riverwalk, where as we sail out from underneath the Bow Street Bridge on the other side, if you look way up to the left of the boat, from this view, this tall building up here looks like a tall, flat wall without the tallness. This right here was founded in 1930 as the Next General Hospital. At the time, the first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospital to the entire United States. Unfortunately, they had to sell the property 3 years ago. When it reopens, it's supposed to be reopening as a Marriott Hotel right alongside the North Square up ahead of us here, otherwise known as the nightlife of the river all around us here at this point, where right in the heart of the North Square is the Hyatt Regency Hotel up in front of our boat above Precious Street Bridge, which has the Alamo just on the other side of it. As a result, the Hyatt is only 16 floors tall. They wanted to make it taller when they founded it in 1981, but the San Antonio Conservation Society convinced its owners to scale it down to size so that it wouldn't cast a shadow on the Alamo during sunset. Though they did reserve room on the bottom river level of the Hyatt up here for shops to pass sail the Alamo right up here. Spanish for a passageway to the Alamo, this very beautiful area on the inside will take you out right in front of the Alamo. An Alamo Plaza Street. You continue on straight through there at that point. And if you go out to right in front of the Alamo, just to the right of the Alamo, across the street from it is the Mingro Hotel, which itself, at the Mingro Hotel down there, is considered the most haunted place in all of San Antonio to this day. Once again, that's the Mingro Hotel. It's just to the right of the Alamo, just 2 blocks down to the left of our boat. But back down here along the river level, we're going to be sailing by the old Casino Club building to the right of our boat up here. Founded up here in 1927 as a social club with German immigrants. Now it's home to a soft grass steakhouse restaurant here, however, as well as an apartment complex on the very top, where Elaine Hugman used to live. She was the widow of Robert Harvey Harold Hugman, and Robert Harvey Harold Hugman was the architect who designed the entire riverwalk all around us. This was all his vision right here. Robert Hugman designed all of the sidewalks, staircases, bridges, benches, everything you see around us here, the mid-1920s. And presented his designs for shops of Aragon and Romula, as he originally called it, the city leaders in 1929, hoping to secure funding for the Riverwalk. Sadly, city leaders rejected the proposed Riverwalk, but Robert Hugman wasn't going to give up that easily. Throughout the next few years, he was able to gather up some popular support and funding for his vision for a Riverwalk from a variety of sources, including Moy Maverick, a U.S. congressman from San Antonio who was very intrigued by the idea for a Riverwalk. Moy Maverick asked his good friend, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to send the Works Projects Administration down here, which President Roosevelt was reluctant to do at first. In fact, Moy Maverick had to ask him so many times, put so much pressure on him, so that at one point, it's even rumored that President Roosevelt said, just gave Moy Maverick the money for his downriver, so quit bothering me already. And finally, after much pressure, the Works Projects Administration came down here and built the Riverwalk all around us from March 27th, 1939 until March 14th, 1941, just under 2 full years. Though Robert Hugman himself, he's considered the father of the Riverwalk to this day. In fact, right after the Riverwalk was completed in 1941, Robert Hugman set up his old office just to the right of our boat on the bottom river level of this last building at the corner. If you look up on this balcony on street level, you'll see Robert Hugman's old office sign with his initials, R.H.H. Hugman, followed by AIA, which stands for American Institute of Architects. You look at Robert Hugman's old office sign just down from it, you'll see a bust of Robert Hugman at the base of the staircase here as well, along with a few plaques around it here that tell a little bit more about his history in case anyone wants to come down here later, read up on him, learn a little bit more. Like I said, he set up shop over here again in 1941, right after the Riverwalk was completed, because he wanted to prove that a business could thrive upon the Riverwalk. Despite his best efforts, though, in his early years, it didn't do too well. Crime used to be a huge problem down here. Got so bad that at one point, this Riverwalk was even declared off limits to the military because of safety concerns. What actually changed the Riverwalk's luck, made it much safer down here, and as a result, more successful to this day, obviously, was the World's Fair that our city hosted in 1968. In the years leading up to that World's Fair, 1968, the city raised funds in order to help clean out the river, beef up security, and also build this man-made extension of the river that we're entering into right here, which all used to be land here the rest of the way down. The city built the bridges above us on street level along the way and dug it out underneath them, all the way down to 5 feet below us, so that they could extend the river and the Riverwalk all the way up to the Hemisphere Plaza, which is where that World's Fair took place from April 6th until October 6th, 1968. A good full 6 months for which millions of people came down here to San Antonio. Many of whom found their way to the Riverwalk here and thought that it was so beautiful, so that when a lot of them went home, they told all of their friends about the Riverwalk, and their friends came down here and went back home and told all of their friends, and so on and so on. So that now, thanks to word of mouth, since that World's Fair, this Riverwalk to this day is in constant rivalry with the Alamo, with a coveted title of most visited tourist destination in all of Texas, which has made it much safer down here for the military, which is a good thing since San Antonio is also a very big military town, birthplace in fact of the U.S. Air Force. after the first U.S. military flight took place here in San Antonio. March 2nd, 1910, by Lieutenant Benjamin Delahaw Lloyd, good friend and student of the Rifles. San Antonio to this day is also home to Lackland Air Force Base as well. This is where everyone within the enlisted branch of the United States Air Force comes for basic training, earning it the nickname the Gateway to the Air Force. Now, around this one turn, if you look up to the right of the boat, you'll see this big metal sculpture that was put up here in mid-April of last year of these two giant metal flowers that were built using spare bicycle parts. This right here is a sculpture that's named Bloom. It was designed by a local artist down here named Leticia Huerta. You look at Bloom here, just past it, continuing to look up to the right of the boat in the sky here, you'll see what was the centerpiece for the World's Fair in '68. The Tower of America is right up here. Founded here that year in 1968, and at the time stood as the tallest freestanding tower in the entire United States of America. It is 750 feet to the top of the antenna, just a little bit taller than the Seattle Space Station. To retain that title as tallest freestanding tower in the United States of America for a good 28 years, until the Stratosphere in Las Vegas was founded in 1996. The Tower of America is though still open up there to this day in the Hemisphere Plaza, which is a city park to this day, on the other side of the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, which is at the end of this extension way to the right of our boat at this fork here, which itself is unfortunately closed to our regular tour boats due to dangerously high winds down here at the far end of it. So instead we're going to be taking a left turn here at this fork and entering into the river center. Concepcion and Espada, all founded 11 years later in 1731. Just past the Arneson River Theater, coming up to the right of our boat, we're going to sail by a sculpture up here, which depicts an old cattle driver that used to come through town in the mid-1800s. Back when San Antonio was a big cattle and ranching town, before the arrival of the railroad in 1877. And this sculpture sits right in front of the Briscoe Western Art Museum, itself having been founded in 2013 and named in honor of Dolph Briscoe Jr., a former governor of Texas, who himself had an extensive collection of Wild Western art and memorabilia. It's all collected on the inside of this museum to this day, including Santa Anna's ceremonial dagger, one of Pancho Villa's old sandals, diorama, the Battle of the Alamo, and also a neat little recorded live interview with the architect Ted Kelsey, who designed the sculpture behind us. Just past the Briscoe Western Art Museum then, we're going to sail underneath Preston Street Bridge right here. As we sail out from underneath Preston Street Bridge, on the other side, we're going to be sailing by Malzanese Table, coming up to the right of our boat. This diamond-shaped iron sculpture over here that was placed here in 1991 to honor the 300th anniversary of that first Catholic Mass that occurred along this river, which once again was on June 13th of 1691 by the missionary Damien Malzané, hence Malzané's Table, which sits right on top of Marriage Island here. This little outcropping of land here, again off to the right side of our boat, sticking out in front of the Hotel Contessa, known as Marriage Island right here because it is in fact the most popular place along the Riverwalk for getting married at, hence Marriage Island. Just past Marriage Island, we're going to sail underneath the old mill crossing ahead of us, so named because of the old Nat Lewis Mill that was founded here in 1845, which used to grind grain for many of the citizens until 1890, and thus marks were ahead of us the last major crossing along the river for horse-drawn carriages before the arrival of the automobile in San Antonio. Marks will sail by the Westin Hotel to the right of our boat here, itself the last major hotel to ever open along the Riverwalk in the last century. Opened in November of 1999, just across the river from the Tower Life building, way up to the left of our boat in the sky right here. This very popular fixture, San Antonio skyline right here, which itself opened to the public on June 1st, 1929. It's the Smith and Young Tower, named after its original owners, the Smith brothers, and their lawyer, J.W. Young, who wanted to build this big, huge complex of buildings on this whole area of land to our left. which they planned would be similar to New York City's Rockefeller Center. So we're going to call that extension. Before we do though, obviously if you look ahead of us at the corner here, you will see the latest addition to the riverwalk. This one statue right here named Stargazer was designed by a Mexican artist named Pedro Reyes. And it depicts a person looking at the stars with the holding in the right hand, hence Stargazer. I have been informed though that it is not completed yet. They are in the process of adding an anti-graffiti coat of paint to it, and then they'll wrap it up, I believe, in a tarp in late April and have it dry for the rest of spring and summer until it is officially completed and unveiled in the fall, along with some other art pieces downtown here. But you know, the next few weeks you can come down here, still have pictures taken of it. We'll go and sail past Stargazer then into the River Center extension here, which itself was added on later. Dug up here down to 5 feet deep the rest of the way down in the mid-80s, so that they could extend this man-made area of the river all the way up to the River Center Mall. The River Center Mall was founded in 1988, but before they founded the River Center Mall, they wanted to put these two Marriott hotels here in 1979. The Marriott on the left over on the other side of Commerce Street, they had no trouble putting up. The Marriott to the right of our boat, in its spot here, used to sit the old Fairmont Hotel, an abandoned building, which they wanted to tear down to make room for this Marriott. But the San Antonio Conservation Society got involved and claimed that the Fairmont Hotel up here was too historic to tear down, since it used to be an old salesman's hotel. So instead, for more than 5 years in negotiating, raising funds and planning, they took the 3-story, 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel that used to be back here, loaded it onto 288 tires and 30 steel beams, and then wrapped it up in steel cables, which were connected to trucks, which drive that 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel from March 30th until April 4th in 1985, just about 6 blocks south into the west behind us, to its new location at South Alamo on the Weber Streets. Were then reopened as a first-class hotel, and in its old spot, they're then able to put the Marriott Riverwalk back behind us. Followed, of course, by the River Center Mall right here, whose part we're entering into right here itself, the second largest mall here in all of San Antonio. Beaten out only by the North Star Mall on the north side of Route 410 in San Pedro. It is, however, the only mall here in all of San Antonio with a river going right into its very center, hence River Center, which has over 100 stores and restaurants here, most of which have just now opened up today. Come down here, there's also 2 movie theaters, regular AMC movie theater, plus an IMAX theater, much taller and wider screen, and also a couple of neat little virtual reality simulator rides and jungle gym on the very top floor as well. Now, as we exit the whole River Center Mall area here, after San Antonio hosted the World's Fair in 1968, a lot of the countries who attended it were very grateful to our city for having hosted our World's Fair. Some of them even gave us some lovely presents afterwards. One of which was the country of Portugal, whose government had a pavilion down here, where in front of that pavilion had a statue of the very man who this river and the city built around it were named after. And that statue was eventually placed just around this one here, up to the rendezvous in the corner up here. Statue right here of Saint Anthony de Padua, who's depicted as holding the baby Jesus in the center on top of a Bible. He was a 12th century Catholic patron saint of lost and stolen items, as well as the patron saint of Portugal. Hence the reason why the Portuguese government had the statue in front of their pavilion. San Antonio is Spanish for Saint Anthony. The story goes back during the age of exploration for the country of Spain, who laid claim to much of what is now modern Texas and Mexico, had expeditions sent out in order to set up missions so that they could convert some of the local natives down here. It also created a defensive border against French-occupied Louisiana, since French and Spanish empires